Hi, welcome to part 1 of my review featuring Sunderwald Sidequest Edition. This is an Ashcan version of the document. There are many things that still need to be added to the finalized version, such as illustrations, the layout needs to be finished or touched up, so I won't be able to comment too much in terms of quality. This role-playing game features a dark forest with many wondrous secrets, some of them mystifying and some of them quite terrifying. This role-playing game is quite interesting in the sense that it contains many metagame rules. We will talk about those in a few moments. Now let's talk about the contents. In the center of the Kingdom of Realm, there exists a dark and unsettling forest. It is known as the Sunderwald. At first glance, its name is misleading. The world is not physically divided from the rest of the world. There is no magic veil that partitions it from realm. Only a slight change in air pressure when you cross the border. Even so, there is not a scholar who would disagree that the woods are somewhere else. Every city and burg in the kingdom knows the stories of the world, of the haunted ruins and strange beings that await within it, of its ancient treasures waiting to be gathered by the brave. Within its reaches, there lie powerful artifacts and terrible knowledges. Each has the potential to transform civilization or to transform the fortunes of those that find them. To this end, the world attracts vagabonds and daredevils, knights and priests, sorcerers and lay folk, and some of them even make it out of the woods alive. Let's talk about the metagame rules, or unearthing secrets as they are known here. The answers to many of the world's great questions can be found in the depths of the Sunderworld, and those answers may change the foundation of certainty that Realm stands on. To that end, this game is designed to be modified as you play. Taking certain actions within the world will allow you to unearth secrets that affect Realm and beyond. Whenever you meet the conditions to unearth a secret, you go to that secret and permanently modify the book of this game by making whatever choices it asks you to make. Some secrets take time to unearth. That time is typically measured by making tick marks in the space underneath the secret. When a secret like this accumulates enough tick marks, it is fully unearthed. Each secret may only be fully unearthed once. Cross out its prompt when you are done with it. I am going to be reading some of these secrets to you, because there are many. For example, our first unearthed secret is, when you have read this section for the first time, sign your name on the line below. If you are playing with a group, they may all sign their names as well. Following this explanation, you have a section explaining the basics of tabletop role-playing games, and you have another unearthed secret. When two different people have Waldmeistered sessions of Sunderwald, because a game master is known as the Waldmeister in this role-playing game. So, when two different people have participated as game masters in this RPG, they must work together to create a listing for themselves in the Gods chapter of this book, following the rule from the Create Your Own chapter. There are also tips and advice on how to set the tone for the game. You could play this quite seriously, or maybe somewhat comedic. Then we have a section talking about rolling the dice. Not all of Sunderwald's gameplay is talking in character or describing your actions. Often there's an element of chance as well. Whenever it is unclear whether or not a player character will succeed at the task set before them, their player should roll a 6-sided die. If the d6 rolls under or equal to the player character's most relevant skill, they succeed and press forward without consequences. If the d6 rolls higher than the player character's most relevant skill, they mostly achieve their goal, but suffer a consequence as determined by the Waldmeister. When it comes to consequences, they are complications from failed rolls that make a player character's immediate situation more interesting. Consequences should always be connected to the circumstances of a roll. They may threaten the life or stability of one or more characters, but they shouldn't be disproportionate to what's happening in the story. A player character who trips down the stairs of a stone ruin might suffer bruises, a concussion, a reputation for clumsiness, or a broken limb, but they shouldn't somehow cause the entire world to explode, of course. Within this limitation, the Worldmeister has plenty of freedom to improvise. So consequences could be related to violence, scorn, misfortune, or they could be untyped consequences. They could defy easy description and do not inflict a neatly categorizable setback. In most situations, the Worldmeister chooses the consequence type when assigning a consequence, but in some specific situations, such as combat, the Worldmeister will have limitations on which kinds of consequences they can assign. There could be characters that are immune, resistant, or vulnerable to particular consequences. Now, when it comes to skills, almost all dice rolls in Sunderwald are made against a player character's skills. Skills are ranked in proficiency from 1 to 5. That is, 1 is barely practiced and 5 is extremely capable. All player characters have the following 6 skills. You have Clash with Shield and Blade, used to engage foes in combat. You have Withstand Violence and Weather, used to survive injuries sustained from combat or hostile environments. You also have Sway with Promises and Lies, used to push the hesitant into taking action. You have Cower Behind Shadow and Vine. This is used to hide from threats that are too dangerous to face. You have Fuss with Pestles and Powders, which is used to diagnose strange conditions, overcoming obstacles with alchemy and such. You also have Peer through Mist and Gloom. This is used to uncover dangers and valuables in the environment. Now, when it comes to attributes, there are 6 attributes in Sunderwald. Each attribute describes a broad aspect of a character that is not rolled like a skill, but that still plays an essential role in their adventures. You have an unearthed secret here. The first time you encounter a situation where everyone agrees a new attribute is needed, you write it below the paragraph. Then add it to every kin, that is, a sort of species or race within the game, at rank 1. When it comes to grit points, they are used to absorb the consequences of failed rolls. When you roll the dice, fail and suffer a consequence, you can spend a grit point to cancel out that consequence and succeed instead. Grit points are refilled by resting. When it comes to wounds, they are a measure of how much tragedy a character can endure. Each time you suffer 1 or more consequences without using grit points to absorb them, negate those consequences, lose a wound, and recover half of your grit points. As long as you have any points of wounds remaining, you cannot be killed, destroyed, banished, forced to flee, or otherwise removed from the game by a consequence. This means that if you don't have any wounds remaining, any consequence can be lethal. Your wounds refill at the start of each expedition. Then you have Push. This is used to get more out of your successes. Whenever you roll a skill, you may spend any number of push points to also roll that many push dice. If your skill die succeeds, every push die that rolls a 3 or less succeeds as well. Each of these successful push dice gives you a benefit. The Waldmeister will narrate these benefits like consequences, except they work in your favor. Push points are refilled at the start of every combat. When used in combat, push works differently, and we will talk about that in a future part of this review. Then we have Brace. This is used to increase your odds of success on a roll. Whenever you roll the dice, you may spend any number of Brace points to roll that many additional skill dice. As long as at least one of your skill dice succeeds, you succeed your roll. Succeeding with multiple skill dice does not improve the results of your roll. Having extra skill dice simply increases your odds of success. Half of your Brace points are refilled by resting. When used in combat, this is also different. Here there is an interesting unearthed secret. The first time a player succeeds with 3 or more skill dice to a single roll, they decide what unintended consequence happens each time a character succeeds with 3 or more skill dice on a single roll. When it comes to carrying capacity, this is used to measure how many pieces of gear a character can carry with them on an expedition. Characters may freely outfit themselves with gear up to their carrying capacity at the start of every expedition. As that gear breaks and is consumed, they will have to find more in the woods. Then we have Realization. This is used to measure the obscure insights a character has into the inner workings of the world. When a character meets a realization criteria for a monster, place, faction, god, ritual, piece of gear, or anything else, they may spend a point of realization to permanently scroll a small, specific fact into the margins of the book entry for that thing. If a player wishes, they may spend their realization to ask the Waldmeister to scroll a fact instead. This may be more comfortable for groups that like a harder dividing line between the Waldmeister and player character roles. In rare cases, the Waldmeister may veto realization facts that are not sufficiently small and specific. If this happens, the player gets their realization point back and may simply try again. More commonly, if everyone agrees that a detail someone wants to add is great, it doesn't cost any realization. You can add it freely. Finally, unlike all other attributes, the Waldmeister also has a pool of realization points. The Waldmeister has realization equal to the number of other players, refilled at the start of every game session. They don't need to meet realization criteria, and they can spend their realization on behalf of the players if they wish. Everyone's realization points refill at the start of every expedition. And this concludes this part of the review. As you can see, this system leans a bit more towards storytelling. There is a lot of potential for player authorship and world building, but it's still gritty enough to the point that a character experiences death when consequences dictate it so. I also like the metagaming aspect of creating some content as you go through the sessions, through the adventures. It feels a bit like achievements in a video game, so suddenly you're having some results or some failures or successes within different situations, and you have unlocked this meta rule to modify the game for all future adventures, scenarios, campaigns, etc. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. I hope that more art and layout will be added to the book, because I am going to talk about character creation. So once again, thank you, and thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.